thanks for staying on. Now, there's another coronavirus variant on the block that's getting some experts worried. Now, we're already aware of what we call is the Delta variant. This was the variant which caused massive spread of infection and caused the horrendous second wave that India has suffered through. But this new variant is a mutant to that as well. So it is called the Delta Plus variant. These are the cases that have been reported so far. Individual state governments have reported this. 2 in Karnataka, 21 in Maharashtra, 5 in Madhya Pradesh and 3 in Kerala. So the total tally to that is 31. But the central government today also gave out its figures, and as per the central government, the total cases to the Delta Plus variant are 22. So there is a minor disparity in these figures so far. But irrespective of that disparity here, here's what is of biggest concern, because health experts here feel, and those who've studied the behavior of the Delta Plus variant here, they feel that this is far more infectious to what we've seen already in the Delta. It is immune to the vaccine jabs. It is immune to the anti-COVID drugs here as well. And it can be the cause behind the third wave. It can bring in the third wave in India sooner than expected. The INSACOG, which is associated with, which is a consortium of experts associated with the Union Health Ministry here, has maintained here that this is a variant of concern. So what we're asking tonight here, also for a concern for all of us, because this is happening, these are figures that are coming in amidst mass scale unlocking from across state governments that we're seeing right now. What should be the task force response to this, and what should be our responsibility here as well? We're going to be discussing this in just a bit here, but it's important to note there are some more breaking updates here that are coming in concerning the Delta Plus variant. Now, talking about the centre's observations here, this is what the central government has just stated a short while back here. It has raised the alarm now on this newly found Delta Plus variant here. It calls it a variant of concern. It has confirmed the presence already in states of Maharashtra, Kerala and Madhya Pradesh. So the health ministry now goes ahead and writes to these state governments, asking them to step up containment measures. Testing, tracking needs to be stepped up as well. Vaccination measures as well in the affected areas to ensure that more samples are promptly sent for genome sequencing. So there should be more sample collection here. Some more details in the alarm that has been raised here. Let's go across to our correspondent Ayushman, getting us further updates here on this. Ayushman, this is what experts were saying for a while. Central government today does echo some of those concerns.
Yes, sir. In fact, after the briefing, when we were told that it is a variant of interest, now the health ministry has made it clear that the Delta Plus is a variant of concern. And that clearly means that it has got increased transmissibility, stronger binding receptor to the lung cell, and potential reduction in monoclonal antibody response. So that clearly puts the picture in a better perspective that the states need to act. The states have been advised that they would be needing to adopt the containment measures that are already there, but immediate containment measures, enhanced testing, tracking and vaccination in district and clusters where the Delta Plus variant has been found has to be done, and this advisory has been sent to the state of Maharashtra, Kerala and Madhya Pradesh, from where we have been told that the cases of Delta Plus have emerged. But it is very, very important to understand here that now it has been made clear there is no more waiting for more number of cases to emerge. INSACOG has told the states and the center that Delta Plus is a variant of concern in India. This is INSACOG's version, and currently it is very, very important to understand that it is no more a variant of interest, it is a variant of concern which spreads within active pace and more than what we have seen in the Delta variant.
Absolutely. Ayushman, thanks for highlighting that in a matter of few hours, from just being a variant of interest here, it has now been upgraded to a variant of concern, which is why it is also asked for more containment measures. Thank you for getting us those details. And on that note, I'm going to throw this open to all our panelists here as well. This is also keeping in mind the latest update to this aspect that has come in. We have Dr. Chandrakant Laheria with us, who's a vaccine and public policy health systems expert with us. Mr. Satyajit Rath, Professor Satyajit Rath, in fact, of the Indian Institute of Science, Education and Research from Pune. Dr. Vikram, member of the Oxford Vaccine Trial and senior clinical lecturer at the University College of London. And Dr. Rajiv Dasgupta with us, the chairperson, Center of Social Medicine, Community Health and JNU, in fact, and member of National COVID Task Force as well. So I'm going to go first right ahead to Dr. Dasgupta. Since you are a member of the National Task Force, this is a word that has come in from the central government that containment measures now further need to tighten up, at least in these 4 states where the Delta Plus variant has been recorded. But Dr. Dasgupta, this is coming in amidst mass unlocking measures that have already come into play in all of these state governments. How do you think this is going to be reversed into stricter containment measures now?
Thank you. As the center stepped up its vigilance today, declaring it a variant of concern, up from the variant of interest category, obviously, as the unlock progresses, as sectors of economy open up, this is going to be a major concern. But then this has always been a concern as unlock happens, as we have seen the last time. And therefore, over and above the test, track, containment, etc., what 2 or 3 things more are going to be crucial. One, of course, the INSACOG we know is working. The genomic surveillance will have to work in tandem with field epidemiology to do what's known as molecular epidemiology, which is linking the genomic understanding or the genomic evidence to clinical disease as well as spread. That's one major component. Of course, vaccination. We have seen a huge feat of sorts yesterday, and that's got to continue and that's got to be sustained. That's very crucial. But most important, and what I think is not receiving adequate attention, is making workplaces safe from the COVID point of view. It's one thing to say, wash your hands, people should sit 6 feet apart or 50% attendance and so on. But what's very crucial in the spread of COVID in the workplace context, and this is just not offices, but all kinds of workplace, anything that's indoors, is ventilation and building conditions, is airflow, is air conditioning wherever it is there. And as we have seen in the run up to the second wave, when the Delta variant came, it's really the workplace that's been the most dangerous place of sorts, if I may. And that's something which should receive a lot more attention than it is at present.
Dr. Vikram, would you like to step in here on this? Because what has been established so far here, that this is a variant, the Delta Plus variant. This is a variant of the virus which is more infectious, largely believed immune to vaccines, immune to COVID, anti-COVID drugs here as well. So what really should be the measures right now? Because we're sitting in an unlocking phase where businesses and economy raring to move ahead here. Schools, colleges opening up in a couple of states here as well. Where should the arrest be put? Where should this unlocking be decelerated right now?
Yes, thank you for having me on the show, Sahar. So I think a couple of things I would say. I agree with my co-panelists that this is a difficult situation because on one hand you want to open up the economy after the deadly second wave, but on the other hand you've got a new variant being detected. But we're in the early stages. We don't know yet whether actually the vaccines don't work against it. I wouldn't say so because it's likely that the vaccines are quite effective against the Delta variant. And so it's also possible that they will be equally effective, at least 70% or more effective against the Delta Plus variant. So we can't rule out the vaccines right now. We've detected a few cases of Delta Plus. That doesn't mean that the variant is so powerful that the vaccines don't work. So all the strategies in place so far, whether it was trying to bring a quick lockdown in a very hotspot area, trying to step up your game of testing, tracing, so that at least you control the number of people with this virus, vaccination to step up again. All those basic things which were really important for second wave will have to continue for this potentially next variant, which might cause another big wave. But again, the message has to be the same. It's all about public health measures. People have to be made aware of the precautions they have to take, and that has to go through right at the grassroots level.
Professor Rath, would you like to step in? And while I ask you this, just wanting to reiterate, because these are breaking updates that I was referring to, or what the central government had just stated. Part of it is also what the INSA COG has found on how this variant behaves, saying that yes, it is far more infectious. It has increased transmissibility. That is a very important characteristic feature of the Delta Plus. A stronger binding to receptors of lung cells, and a potential reduction in monoclonal antibody response. So your response to how respective state governments now need to act in, what should be the measures taken by the respective task forces as well?
Well, the first thing that I think I would like to reiterate that Dr. Talolikar has made as a point is that many of these are guesses. INSACOG's information is based on a certain amount of informed guesswork. We don't really know just how much more transmissible it is, if at all, as compared to the Delta variant. It does have a mutation over and beyond the Delta variant that reduces the reactivity of some monoclonal antibodies, but that doesn't tell us anything terribly definitive about whether vaccination or infection-generated body antibody responses will prove to be dramatically less protective. And all of that is also made problematic by the fact that we don't quite know just how much of an antibody level is protective for what outcome. How much antibody do we need? How much neutralizing antibody do we need for protecting against severe illness and death? Presumably, we need a little more to protect against mild, moderate, perhaps even asymptomatic infection.
Okay.
There are guesses about this, but we don't know the numbers with any definitiveness. So a great deal of this is based on preemptive caution. I'm sorry, you were saying?
Right. Dr. Laheria, would you like to step in here on this? Because would we just take this into account as an informed guess, or be far more mindful of not having a second wave redux? We're well aware, we have the figures, we have the cases, we have the fatalities of how the Delta variant acted on us and caused the absolute mayhem in the second wave. Now we have the emergence of the Delta Plus, and we have it well in time to nip it in the bud.
So I agree with everything which Professor Rath said. We need to remember that this is a Delta variant with one additional mutation. Now, everything is similar to Delta variant, and that's why it's very logical that this should be designated as variant of concern, because essentially it's a Delta variant with one additional mutation. So much of the things which are being discussed are, in some sense, in my opinion, is more of a knee-jerk and overreaction, because except for initial indication that there might be some resistance for monoclonal combination antibody, rest of the things are similar. Of course, we know this K417N was found in beta variant earlier, but that is not itself a proof that it will be immune escape or a breakthrough infection. What we also need to remember that Delta variant itself has some breakthrough or immune escape, but that is really low. We need to go back to the studies which have found that breakthrough infections are in the range of 2 to 5%, which is really minor variation. So there is no reason to believe that this is going to be very different. Yet, having said that, since we acted relatively slow in the Delta variant, so it's important that this variant which is emerging, we increase the collection of additional samples for genomic sequencing. But I would not jump the gun to say that this would be responsible for third wave or any subsequent wave. we should be mindful of everything which is happening around. There is a Delta variant.
Okay.
This is another version of Delta variant, and I would not. This Delta plus related discussion is creating another panic, and that should not be the case. This is a Delta variant. We should be doing everything to prevent whichever variants are circulating. We need to increase genomic sequencing, which is widely known. And third, last part is that we need to link all the genomic sequencing with the clinical data, that what is happening. So we need to have more data before we talk about all of this.
All right. Fair enough, Dr. Leheria, for bringing about that balance here. But Dr. Dasgupta, why not raise the alarm now? Possibility of the third wave hitting us sooner than expected. Why not raise the alarm on bringing in stricter measures, despite we have the juggernaut rolling on unlocking across the country here, but bringing in those restrictions well in time? I mean, we are so traumatized by what happened in the second wave. No one's wanting a redux.
Well, I agree with what my colleague said, that on the face of it, there isn't enough evidence to either link this to a potential third wave, or whether the alert should have been raised to variant of concern. But let us grant that it's been erring on the side of caution, so we might as well agree with both. However, and this links to what Chandrakant just said, that the country has gone through a second wave largely led by the Delta variant. In fact, some states are still in the grip of it. And therefore, unless we have district level sero surveys, which we understand the Niti Aayog has asked the ICMR to conduct, until those district level sero survey results are available, it's a little premature to speculate on the third wave, or whether and to what extent this particular variant will contribute to third wave, if at all. But there is no denying that the vigil is not to be lowered, which we all certainly agree, and whatever it takes to maintain and sustain current activities ought to be done to the best possible extent.
Dr. Vikram, as far as the government's responsibility goes on speculation of whether or not anti-COVID drugs work against this, or the vaccines work against this, or are less effective against the Delta plus variant here, should the central government now be taking in those responses, updates coming in from the pharma giants on how their product works against the Delta plus?
Well, I think governments always take the scientific experts' view. Often they will have people who will look at the data that's emerging in terms of publications in peer-reviewed journals or scientific studies which are being published, both from the pharmaceutical companies in collaboration with whichever scientific teams they are working with. Again, this is too early to say about, say, Delta plus variant, simply because there are very few cases so far which have been identified. As I said, as everybody on the panel has said, this is the time to keep surveillance, make sure that you're picking up as many cases, doing the genomic sequencing. The real results or the real world data about how effective the vaccines are, whichever type of vaccine you take, is still far away. We have to rely on the data so far about Delta variant. We know that if you take both shots of the vaccine in the whatever time period that's recommended, you will have a good level protection against infection or serious disease. And I think the same should apply to Delta plus as far as we have the data so far. In future, if there are new studies which emerge that the Delta plus is a bit more immune to these vaccines, then that's different. But so far, there is nothing, no evidence to say that the vaccines won't work. So I think the policy should not change right now in any way, because it's too early. We should wait for more concrete results to follow in future.
Okay. Professor Rath, would you like to add to that here? Because as far as the Delta plus variant is concerned, we're not entirely hitting in the dark here, because we know how the Delta variant behaves, and this is a mutation to that which is called Delta plus. So we have a larger understanding of how this is going to behave.
Well, as all four of us have been saying, it's actually not all that clear as to how it is going to behave. We have seen the additional mutation in, I think, the beta variant, and the role that it has played there is not quite clear as yet. The real point here, and again, a point that all four of us have been emphasizing, is that uh, the governments, both the union government and the state governments, need to do what the obvious, straightforward public health responses that have been followed so far have been more and more carefully, critically, and intensely. Virus sample sequencing, for example, is nowhere near the scale that it needs to be. And over and above this, we, both the people in the governments, need to get over this short term, episodic nature of our responses. This is a pandemic that's going to take time to subside. We are going to see more variants to come because it's the nature of virus populations to throw up variants. And we are going to have some surprises, some pleasant ones, some not so pleasant ones. We need to be prepared for the long haul with durable public health policy responses rather than very short term crisis driven ones that are built to scale.
Okay. So that's a very important point here. Dr. Leheria, would you like to step in here on this, that these episodic or knee-jerk reactions here, that each time there is a new variant that is detected, so we scale up sequencing again, it doesn't happen as a non-stop continuous process here. I mean, we don't want to miss the bus on the Delta Plus as we had seen for the Delta variant, and we know what happened in Maharashtra. We got answers much later. At least 3 weeks later, we finally figured why cases were expanding only in Maharashtra and not in other states. It was because of a variant. But now that we have these figures earlier, systems haven't changed. It is not a non-stop process here. It is episodic with respect to what is found on an immediate basis.
Yeah, so what we are hearing, a lot of discussion on Delta plus variant and then being designated as variant of concern. But what we don't hear is a more long-term sustainable action. For example, it's not enough that we say that if this variant has been identified in a particular area, it will be declared containment zone. What should be done that government should come up with a plan that every medical college across the country would have an ability to have a genomic sequencing, or if not every medical college, every district across the country should have that kind of plan. More samples will be collected and sent for genomic sequencing. So that kind of tangible, measurable indicators should be there, which will ensure that not only this variant, but any other subsequent variant is picked up. And that's one part, and what that we are not hearing. Similarly, what we are not hearing that, okay, we can identify Delta plus variant or any other variant, but unless there are institutional mechanism to link the variant with the clinical study related to whether it's effective to vaccine effectiveness, what is the transmissibility, and those kind of Indian data we need to generate. We till now rely largely on international data, which GIS, AID, and which provide us information, and we rely on that, and then we follow. We need to remember that Delta variant was first reported in October, and Alpha variant was first reported in September. Just a month apart, the two variants were reported, but we know far less about Delta variant, while we know a lot more about Alpha variant. So we need not to repeat that mistake, and we need to get institutional mechanism to answer those problems. So in November or whenever things happen, we are better conditioned. The one last point is that government should say that we are XYZ number. The last point is that the government should say that we will step up genomic sequencing this proportion of total data.
Okay. Dr. Dasgupta, would you like to add to that here? Also, because you're associated, you're a member of the National Task Force, a word that one needs to put into the government. Of course, we've just gotten the latest warning by the central government this evening on the Delta Plus variant, but it is repetitive, and we're aware how limited our infrastructure is. No matter how much you scale up testing, tracing, tracking, at the end of the day, if a wave blows up in your face, we're all running helter-skelter. We're falling short of infrastructure. Have we really seen that upgradation? We haven't.
Yes, and in that I fully agree with all the substantive points made by Satyajit and Chandrakant. Absolutely so. Very briefly, as far as the Delta Plus goes, so far the only geographic consistency, if I may, is from Maharashtra, perhaps because they are testing more, is from the Konkan and the Pune divisions, a cluster of districts there. But otherwise, it still seems to be sporadic. But then it could be a function of testing. We should continue to watch. We should continue to maintain a state of alert.
All right, many thanks. Appreciate all the panelists, the experts who've spoken with us here on this tonight. And remember, this is not about prematurely raising the alarm. This is all about being careful. We've lived through a very horrifying time, very traumatizing time of the second wave here. And if there is a new variant, a Delta Plus, which is largely believed to behave in a similar manner, we do not want the third wave hitting us sooner than expected. We want much more preparedness on ground, and we want much more responsibility from each of our citizens here as well. Please don't drop the COVID appropriate behavior. Carry on with it. Thanks for being with us tonight.